And good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Othor Cain Show. I'm Othor Cain. Glad to have you aboard on this Tuesday evening. So good to see you guys and to have you here. And got to tell you that I absolutely, positively appreciate your support. And I want to start in that space tonight by thanking all of you. You know, I don't take this platform for granted by any stretch of the imagination. I don't take for granted your trust, your belief in what we are doing. I don't take that for granted at all. I am eternally grateful for your support. And when I tell you we've gotten some enormous support over the last couple of weeks, and I'm humbled by it. I am absolutely humbled by your support, and I really do appreciate that. Yeah, because I told you I was coming on at 8, and I saw your Facebook post about me being on time tonight. But listen. I am eternally grateful for your support. There's so many people that I need to thank, and I got to pull my script up. But there's so many people that I need to thank for the $1 donation, the $3 donation, the $5 donations, the $100, the $500, the big, the large, everything that you have done over the course of these last 2 weeks. We are eternally grateful, and don't let your support stop. You know, you're not just single-handedly supporting me, right? You're not doing that. You're not single-handedly supporting me. What you are supporting, though, is Black media and independent Black media, and we are absolutely grateful for that. So we certainly do appreciate that. We don't take any of that for granted. In fact, tonight's show is being sponsored by Yemi Kings, and it's being sponsored by Justice Jim Kitchens. And we want to toss to those digital ads right now, just so that we can officially say thank you to them. So we'll go there now.
Hi, I'm attorney Yemi Kings. I've lived and served in Hinds County Subdistrict 2 my entire life. I'm the only candidate from this community, like the late Judge Larita Cooper Stokes, who set the standard for serving our people. I have sat in every seat of the county court. As a prosecutor, I work to keep our community safe by keeping violent and dangerous offenders off our streets. As a public defender, I work to balance the scales of justice. As a civil attorney and advocate for families, I bring unmatched experience and perspective to the bench. My deep connection to this community runs beyond the courtroom. I strive to follow in the footsteps of my great-grandfather, Reverend R.L. T. Smith, and cousin, former DA Robert Schuler Smith, as a true public servant. On November 5th, vote Yemi Kings for Hinds County Court Judge, someone from the community that lives, works, and serves in the community.
Jennifer Branning puts extremist ideology above Mississippi families. She voted against equal pay for women and denied mothers and babies the health care they need 3 times, even after Governor Tate Reeves supported it. Now, Branning wants a seat on the Mississippi Supreme Court to push her dangerous extreme agenda. Justice Jim Kitchens has spent 16 years fighting for families, fairness, and real justice. Let's stand up for Mississippi women and families. Re-elect Justice Jim Kitchens for Supreme Court.
So let me again thank Attorney Yemi Kings and Justice Jim Kitchens. Justice Kitchens was supposed to be with us tonight, and we had a scheduling conflict, and so he will join us on a Thursday. But let me just say this to you right now. It is absolutely imperative, right? It is absolutely imperative that we re-elect Justice Jim Kitchens to the Mississippi Supreme Court. That is so incredibly important. This runoff election happens on Tuesday, November 26th. A tough time to have an election, right? That's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and people travel, right? But let's be clear. If you are going to be away, if you're in Mississippi and you're going to be away, you need to head to your local courthouse and vote via absentee ballot. Please, this election is so incredibly important. And we'll talk about his opponent a little later, just in terms of who she is, how she voted against changing the Mississippi flag, how the bodies of those 3 civil rights workers that were found in Philadelphia, Mississippi, were buried on the grounds of her grandfather's house, right? And he is quoted as saying, "Hell, I got a dam that can hold 100 of them, so bring them on." So we'll talk specifically about that and bring those quotes to you. But it's imperative that you vote in this runoff election. Attorney Yemi Kings is also in a runoff election for county court, right? And he needs your support. So Tuesday, November 26th, it's incredibly important, folks. It is incredibly important. So I am excited tonight to welcome to the broadcast attorney Michael Sterling. He is out of Atlanta, and I came to know, and it's interesting that Yemi mentioned in his commercial Robert Schuler Smith, because that's actually how I came to know attorney Michael Sterling when he was representing the late Robert Schuler Smith in one of his cases. An excellent attorney, a Morehouse man, and glad that he is on the broadcast with us tonight. Attorney Sterling, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Othor. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Man, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us. Man, I thought a friend of mine actually said to me, "Othor, you probably should get an attorney to come on the show, someone outside of Jackson, someone outside of Mississippi that's not connected to this case, to help walk you through the indictments, just to kind of give us, what does all of this legal jargon mean, right?" Sure. And when he suggested that, I couldn't think of nobody but you. You were the first person that popped in my mind, man. So I am glad that you're able to do this tonight. So again, thank you for being here. So I know that you're intimately familiar with the city of Jackson and with Hinds County. You've been here a lot. You've been here before. And when I reached out and asked if you had read the indictment, you said you read it word for word, page for page, right?
I did. I keep up. I love Jackson, Mississippi. It's almost like a second home to me. I think I was there so much, people thought I had taken up residence in Jackson. And Robert meant a lot to me, and him trusting me with 2 separate cases. Both the one in Hinds County and the one in Rankin County, we were able to handle for him and successfully defend him in those cases. So I spent a lot of time in Jackson, and Jackson, Mississippi is one of my favorite cities. I love the people of Jackson. I love Jackson, Mississippi.
Good deal, man. And I got to say, when I watched you in both of those cases, you are masterful, man. I mean, you were absolutely masterful. And so, again, thank you for being here. And so let's jump right into these indictments. As you know, there have been 5 people that have been indicted in this bribery and conspiracy situation. One former councilwoman, Angelique Lee, she pled guilty and she resigned a couple of months or so ago. And then a local businessman pled guilty as well. But in the recent indictments, 3 additional people have been indicted. Hinds County DA Jody Owens, ironically, Robert Schuler Smith was a former Hinds County DA. Jackson Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, and City Councilman Aaron Banks. And I want to start with the DA, right? And you got to help me through this, man, because when I read this, just as a novice, someone without a legal mind at all, when I read this, it reads to me, Michael, as if DA Owens was the mastermind of this. And so of all the counts, I think he's charged with 8 or 9. So talk to us, man. What do you see? What did you understand when you read this?
Yeah, Othor, you don't need a legal expert for that part. If you just read the plain language of the indictment, it literally all revolves around what the DA said, didn't say, didn't do, was willing to do, was willing not to do. All of the meetings were taking place. He was involved in almost every meeting. He was at the table for all of the meetings. So everything revolves around him. And then there's some questions that come up in the indictment, because indictments are not just about what's said. A lot of times it's about what's not said, and language can be very important in indictments.
Right.
And so, it's important in everything, right? But specifically in a legal charging document, what becomes interesting is that so much of what is being alleged revolves around what the DA is communicating to these undercover confidential sources,
right?
Undercover FBI agents. So if you read some parts of the indictment, for example, it'll say, DA Owens, communicated to us that the mayor understood this is what this was for. Well, how can the mayor, right, for example, be implicated in something that the DA is saying he understands, right? Because now that has to go be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, right? And then the question also becomes, Othor, there's going to be a lot of evidence that we don't have access to in the public that the attorneys are probably now going over, and what you take out is you take out snippets of conversations, and the question becomes, can we hear the whole conversation so we can get context? Because you and I can talk for an hour, right? And you take out 3 sentences of something I said, and it looks one way. Exactly.
Right. Listen, and that brings me to this, because a lot of people have been asking this. Why plead not guilty when you have all of this evidence that is seemingly stacked against you? Why plead not guilty? And there's one train of thought that during, you plead not guilty, A, for more time, B, to give your lawyers and the other folk an opportunity to pick through everything during discovery or whatever, and to see what they actually have, right? And then C, there's still an opportunity to plead guilty a little later after you go through that process. Help us understand that piece.
Yeah, so you start with the idea that, one, the state has the burden, right? So an accusation is just that. It's an accusation, even if it's laid out in a level of detail that they attempt to try to make it seem laid out in this particular indictment. But the state's got the burden of proof. So you enter the plea and you say, we're going to go and plead not guilty. And then let us see all the evidence you have, right? Let us see you show that what you said in this indictment is accurate. Let us see you prove that this tape accurately reflects what you say it reflects, that this text message reflects what you say it reflects, and it doesn't refer to some other incident on some other date, right? If you say, I gave him $10,000 for this or $5,000 for that, well, what if the text messages show that you gave him $10,000 for something completely unrelated? Mm-hmm. So you might be able to say he got $10,000, but for all we know, it could be for something completely unrelated. And that's where a good attorney comes in and starts to unwind and look at that evidence and say, well, wait a minute. That wasn't for that. That was for something different, even though you allege that in the indictment. So you start with so you might see something in the indictment and say, well, obviously they say they have unequivocal proof that he got this contribution. All right. But that's not where the case ends. The contribution has to then be for an official act, right? You have to go through all of the elements of the crime. So there's nothing wrong with getting a contribution, right? And you're alleging the contribution was for one thing, but it could be for something completely unrelated, right? So you enter the plea of not guilty and allow your attorneys the opportunity to do their job, which is go through all of their various evidence and say, well, state or government, I think that you got some problems in what you charged in the indictment, because that's not what was happening in this particular case.
Got it. And I think it's important here, Attorney Sterling, to point out that an indictment is not a statement of automatic guilt, right?
No, not at all, right? An indictment is just an accusation that says there's probable cause to bring charges, right? In order for a conviction, it has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. I mean, I went through this, as you know, twice with Robert Smith, and people don't remember this part because a lot of times, I get credit for the trials, but people don't remember Robert was also investigated by the feds, right? They sent someone undercover, had him, they were recording his conversations, right? And so a lot of times you don't get the credit for putting somebody in a position where they were not indicted, right? So yeah, I was able to walk him twice, but I was also able to help him avoid any charges that came from the investigation that was happening in the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Absolutely. Listen, and you touched on this. I just want you to unpack it just a little bit more. In your experience, right, as a defense attorney, in your experience, are there any underlying things that this indictment might be signaling to those defense attorneys?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at something, I'll give you an example. In one of the, and like it's a 32-page indictment. I've read it word for word, but I'm using my memory, right?
Gotcha.
I give you an example. In one of the charges, or in the narrative leading up to where the charges were, they say that I think it's the council president. I can't remember his name.
Aaron Banks.
Mr. Banks, right? So Mr. Banks is sitting at a table with the DA and the two undercover officers, and they say that the DA dismisses him from the table. Right. And then the DA comes back and communicates what Mr. Banks wants. That, to me, that in itself, that raises a red flag to me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, if they're all in a conspiracy together, they're all working on this together, why is Mr. Banks being dismissed from the table? Mm-hmm. Why can't we all talk about it together if we're all doing the same thing? So you've got the DA playing intermediary and say, well, this is what he communicated that he wants in order for this to happen. It's like, well, wait a minute. Mr. Banks didn't communicate that himself. You've got the DA telling them this, right, and dismissing him from the table. Well, if somebody's in a conspiracy with you, we all in it together. Why gotta dismiss you from the table, especially when you don't know you're being recorded, right. You don't know anything's happening, and you're face to face in what you consider to be a secure location in the DA's, I believe it's a cigar shop. Right. So those little things like that for a defense attorney is signaling, because now it's like, I need to look at some more evidence. I need to see what's going on. But think that those little things in an indictment where you're looking at the language, those are the things that a lawyer is looking at, a good defense lawyer, and it's raising questions. You're wondering, why was he dismissed from the table so that the DA could then come back and tell you what he wanted when he could have told you himself. Right. And then there are other things, right? Hey, if you go and mention any amount of cash to the mayor, he's done. He's not going to be a part of this deal. Well, why is that? Is it because the mayor's straight up? Is it because you know that the mayor's not going to take any cash for any reason because that's not how he operates? So those things raise questions. Like, why is the mayor going to be a problem for y'all to try to get this deal done? If y'all are all in a conspiracy together. Right? If y'all are determined to award this contract and y'all are all working on it together and you don't know you're being recorded, you don't know you're undercover, why is it being regurgitated that no, you need to let me talk to him because he's going to be a problem. And it just seems like there's something else here that we need to know. It seems like there's some other evidence that we need to know, because it's a long plane ride from Jackson to Miami, right? What did y'all talk about for those 3 hours? Right? You on a boat for 4 hours and you give us a 2-minute part of the conversation. I want to know what the other 4 hours y'all were talking about. You know what I'm saying? So the question, so that just becomes the question. It's like, we've got the indictment, we've got the charging document, which is basically the government's narrative. So now it's like, well, what can our narrative be from a defense perspective to say, hey, let's provide some context to what was happening to some of these statements.
Got it. And this is where a good defense attorney comes in, one that can actually help shape the narrative, right? So I got to ask you this. So the charges have started, or the accusations have started. There's a trial that's coming up soon, and it is with a Jackson police officer and a young man that was killed. And so somebody has filed, an attorney has filed a motion of some sorts to say that D.A. Owens is not fit, to lead this case, that everything he puts his hands on now, it's tainted and he should be removed. How talk to me about being in that And should DA Owens resign or at least take a leave of absence?
Well, I'll give you my legal perspective. You don't give up leverage you have, right? That's a piece of leverage that his lawyers have for potential negotiation, right? Why would you give that up without getting something in return? So if I'm speaking strictly as a former defense attorney, when I was doing Robert's case, that was when we were negotiating. Now I'll be candid with you. I put all of the options on the table for my client, right? So there were many times where I would go to, Robert, and I would say, if you resign and they're willing to drop charges, like what should we negotiate, right? Something here. And Robert was just one of those people. If you knew him, he was nothing. He was like, I'm going to walk or I'm going to go to jail. Like I'm ready, Mike. So
he put all of his cards on the table.
He put all his cards on the table, and I'm like, I'm with you. Whatever, but I got it. But as a good attorney, I got to give him his options, right? I got to tell him what his options are. And so, if you're the DA, you don't. I mean, and you're his defense attorney. I'm telling him, you don't just resign. I mean, I know that, there's potential public pressure. I know that, some people might be calling for his resignation, but that is a piece of negotiation. That is a piece of leverage in the negotiation with the U.S. Attorney's Office, right? To say he's willing to resign his office and never run for office again if we can get these certain things in return. I mean, you don't want to give up a piece of leverage you have.
I got it.
So if you just give it up for no reason, I mean, there's no benefit, and your lawyers lose one piece of leverage they have.
That makes so much sense to me because I'll be honest with you, I am one of the ones calling for him to step down.
Okay. I didn't know that. I
know you did. I know you didn't, or at least step aside. But what you say makes so much sense to me. His position is leverage, so that makes a heck of a lot of sense to me.
And Robert, Robert got some of that. We dealt with some of that, and that comes with the territory. Now, in Robert's case, it was a zero sum game. Robert was he was gonna die on his heel, right? It was just. And I just had to be prepared to deal with it because Robert was headstrong and he was just going to die on his heel. He was like, I'm not guilty. I'm not resigning. That's the end of it. We're going to go to trial. We're going to win or lose. And if I lose, I don't have a choice. I got to give it up, but I'm just going to die on this heel, right? Wow. That was his position. So I said, Robert, what if I got them? It was one time where I was like, Robert, what if I got them to give you an apology, dismiss all the charges? And he was like, I don't want it. He was like, I want to go to a jury and I want to be declared, I want to be exonerated. That's what he wanted.
Wow. I get it. I totally get it. And I honestly was not thinking through your lens, but that makes perfect sense, right? Because that is leverage that he would be giving up. But let me ask you this. Is, though, this a tough case to defend?
Yes.
Or how tough is it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna tell you the other thing, and this is a commentary, and maybe this is more social commentary. I get so fed up with the way they target Jackson. I really do, because I told you I care about Jackson. I love Jackson. I care about him a lot. And in my mind, I'm reading the indictment, and that's another thing that stuck out to me was the amount of resources the feds were willing to put in for this. To basically set up this entire mirage to potentially catch one or two people taking a small amount of money. And then when you look at all the help Jackson could use from the feds and doing something about crime rate or murder rate, like it's like y'all go through y'all willing to get private jets and yachts and set up this elaborate scheme. And it's like, but really what we could use your help in, and I'm saying we, because I feel like I'm I got residents in Jackson,
right.
But really we could use your help in some of this real crime, right? But it's like they're always targeting. They always figure out a way to target Jackson. And that's not to say that the indictment doesn't bring real charges or real accusations, but it does seem like unfairly so. There's always this target on Jackson, Mississippi, and Hinds County. But with that said, yes, it's a very tough case to defend. I think some people are in a better position than others when I read the indictment. But I think when you look at the level of charges, the things that were happening, that were being done, particularly by the district attorney, I think he's got a tough road ahead of him. And I haven't, of course, keep in mind, for anybody listening, I haven't seen the evidence. I haven't listened to the tapes. Nobody's hired me to represent them. I don't have any inside information other than I have the same access that everybody else in the public has. But yeah, it looks like, particularly at the head of the indictment for the DA, he's got a tough road ahead of him.
Would you, if you were representing DA Owens, would you encourage him to not speak to the media, to just close his mouth? Let me tell you why I asked that question. Okay. Because after they went for their initial court appearance, right? After they got indicted and went for their first appearance, one of the things that he said to reporters after that is that, I would love to take you through the entire 32 pages, but my attorneys advised me not to talk. But I will say this to you, that I will prove that drunken banter is not a crime. And then reading this indictment, that was more than drunken banter in terms of what they're accusing him of. So what would you say?
Yes, I would. I did the same thing with Robert. It's like, please don't talk. Mostly he listened. But yeah, I would tell him, don't talk to the media. Like, cases are won in the courtroom. There's going to be plenty of time for us to talk if we can be successful in this case. And that would be my primary focus is, look, don't do anything to create any new evidence against you. Don't do anything. Don't tweet anything. Don't post anything. Don't say anything that could potentially be used against you. Because that might be the first line of an opening statement, right? He calls it drunken banter, but we all know that he was intentionally pleading. Like, you know what I'm saying? Anything you say can be flipped against you, right? And that might literally be the first line in an opening statement that the government uses, right? He's gonna say it was drunken banter. You've already given away one of my potential defenses. Don't talk. Right. Like, because if that was going to be one of the potential defenses, you've already told them, and you've taken away my ability. You've taken away my ability to use that in the future because they know what's coming now. So yeah, my encouragement would be my advice to all of my clients is always, look, cases are won in the courtroom. They're not won.
Right. Not in the court of public opinion. Not
in the court of public opinion, not on the steps of the courthouse, not in the press conference, not in the press room, not in articles. Cases are won in front of 12 jurors in between those lines in the box. And more important than anything else is focusing on what those jurors and what that judge is going to do. Those are our most important audiences. And we need to be preparing for what we're going to do for them and not worried about what's happening outside of the courtroom.
Got it. I got a question, and this is just for me, because I understand, at least I've been told, and it is my understanding that there perhaps are 3 more unsealed indictments that could possibly be connected to this situation. Okay. When the first question I have, is it possible that those indictments could be additional charges for the same people and not just, more people? Could it be that?
It could be both, right? So what you have in federal court is you could have a superseding indictment that either adds additional charges or a superseding indictment that adds both additional charges and additional people. So it could be both. Obviously, you don't know until the government unseals it, but the government could go back to the grand jury, add additional charges, add additional people, or just do one or the other, add additional people or add additional charges. So one or both. And then they would, file a superseding indictment that would be unsealed. So, and it could all be connected to the same situation or circumstance.
Got it. And then the other question that I have is, so Banks and former Councilwoman Angelique Lee are both connected in this space for future votes, right? For the possibility of voting. They didn't take a vote, and to my understanding, they did not take a vote. Based on what I read, it's future votes for the potential vote. And so my question is, because in this whole scheme, right, with the FBI agents, they didn't see the deal all the way through, right? It's like they stopped. Maybe they thought they had enough and they just stopped. They didn't see the deal all the way through, thus not giving Banks an opportunity to vote and not giving Angelique Lee an opportunity to vote. Why would they not see it all the way through? Why would they stop?
Because they could have been wrong, right? Right. And I'm saying the feds. If you see it all the way through and your company, your pretend fake company, doesn't win their votes and doesn't win the contract, then it was never a bribe in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. So what you have now is you have them charging them with conspiracy to commit bribes based on this potential future vote, right? So if you see it all the way through and they don't do it the way you said they were going to do it, they don't give you the chance. So they're not giving them the chance to do it because they could have been wrong. And if they were wrong, you would have wasted all of these resources, this private jet, this yacht, all of these hundreds of thousands of dollars, all of this money, trying to catch somebody in something that turns out was never a bribe in the first place.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
What if let's take the indictment at face value. What if Jody was lying to y'all? What if he told y'all that Banks said he was going to vote this way, but he was going to vote a different way? All right, what if Jody was telling Lumumba one thing and telling Banks something different and telling the agent something different based on him sort of being the person who was the person communicating everything, right? And what if Jody was setting them up, lying to them, saying, yeah, we're going to do all of this for you. Instead, he was taking y'all for a ride and he was never going to do any of it, right? Which would not make it illegal. And the only way to find out is to see it through. And rather than see it through, they were like, no, let's go ahead and stop. Because if we see it through and we're wrong, we would have wasted all of these resources and would not be able to indict anybody.
Got it. Speaking of the feds being wrong, I've heard different percentage rates in terms of their accuracy and winning cases, right? I've heard a couple of different percentage rates. I've heard as high as a 95% accuracy rate in winning cases. What are your thoughts with the feds? When they come knocking, is it just solid, or is there a larger percentage of breaking through the feds case?
It is. The feds do have a high conviction rate, but keep in mind, those also include cases that never touch a trial, right? So I think the better statistic, which I don't know what it is how many times do they win a full out trial? So when you're talking about conviction rate, 85 to 90% of the cases end in pleas. So let's say you indicted on 8 things and somebody pleads on 1. They're not taking the feds off of those 8. They're giving them credit for the one conviction, right? So if you were counting, for example, every time they charged something versus every time there was a plea, that conviction rate might fall, right? So and if you were counting just trials, which only about 10 to 15% of cases go to trial, that rate would probably fall. But it is typically true that when the feds come knocking, they usually have it pretty solid. They usually have it pretty together. And the feds they would have when I was a federal prosecutor, they have a statement: is 1 charge, 1 conviction. All you need is 1, right? Like if I charge you with 30 things and I get you on 1, right? For example, you look at one of DA's charges is lying to FBI, like lying to federal agents. If they get him on nothing else, they might be able to get him on that one because he said he didn't have a lockbox. And then when they went to his office, he obviously did have a lockbox with money in it. That's a sort of straight up and down, right? As long as they can prove that he told them that and they can prove it was there, that's a pretty straight up charge. So they add that charge to make sure they're going to get you on something. They try to find something they're going to get you on.
Right. Got it. So seemingly, D.A. Owens and Mayor Lumumba are the big fish in this thing. I would guess D.A. Owens being the bigger fish, and so that takes me back to my other question, just in terms of those other unsealed indictments. So you are saying again then that those other unsealed indictments could possibly, if they're connected to this at all, could possibly be additional evidence or other people, and that's called a what kind of indictment?
superseding indictment. So if it's related to this transaction, a series of transactions, so there's a number of things the feds can do. One, they can do a superseding indictment to add additional people or additional charges to the current people. They could do a completely unrelated indictment if they wanted to separate it out, right? So they could do, even if it was related, they could do a completely separate indictment related to this same series of transactions where somebody else is accused. But typically, for efficiency's sake, if it's all related to the same series of transactions, they would do a superseding indictment and add additional individuals or additional charges or both.
Got it. And so, man, I received information, about the numbers connected to these indictments and the sequence of the numbers. And so 2 of them are right back to back. And somebody said that's a 95% chance that they're connected to this case. And then one of them, the sequence of numbers was broken a little bit. And so that percentage went down just a little bit. Though I've always heard that there were 8 indictments in this space too. And so we've got 5 people and then 3 additional indictments. So this is interesting. Will these gentlemen be able to bounce back from this?
Well, it depends, right? It depends, Othor. Like, a lot of people. I remember that case. I was particularly Rankin County. I remember somebody telling me when I got ready to go to Rankin, they said it don't matter what the facts are. Like I told you this, right? I think I told you that. Somebody said to me, they said, I don't want to curse on your show. They said all that stuff you did in Hines ain't gonna matter in Rankin. Right? Don't matter what the facts are.
I remember you saying that to me.
Yeah, they're like you're cooked. And we went to Rankin, and I was able to successfully defend Robert in Rankin County in front of an all-white jury, right? Where he was accused of assaulting a white woman, right? And of stalking her and robbing her. And we were still able to walk him in front of an all-white jury. So I say that to say, sometimes it looks like the odds are stacked against you. And then the more the evidence comes out, the more the information comes out, the more your attorney starts and does some work for you, you never know what is possible. And if they're able to walk away, and get acquitted of these charges, have the charges dismissed, win a motion that gets the charges dismissed, any number of ways in which a defense attorney can win a case like this. If their lawyers and them are able to successfully do that, then I think that their futures, that they'll be able to bounce back just as Robert did.
Man, listen, I heard, let me say this with clarity. Someone said to me, so I didn't hear this attorney say this directly, but someone said to me that one of the attorneys that's representing one of the persons in this 3-man indictment said that he told his client, man, listen, I heard the audio tapes. I know what they have. You might want to take a plea. But much like Robert, this guy said, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm fighting it till the end. Now, if you got your attorney telling you that you need a plea, man, what? Talk to me.
Well, I would tell you this. A good attorney doesn't tell a client what to do. He just gives them his options and gives them the best counsel and advice. So typically what I do when I present a deal of some sort to my clients, or I'm going to present, some sort of negotiation, I tell my clients, hey, based on the evidence or whatever, I think this is a reasonable deal, but ultimately the choice is yours, what you want to do. Because whether you take this deal, whether you go to trial, either way, I get to walk home and spend time with my children. I'm not going to be the one living with the consequences of what happened. I'm going to give you everything I got, right? I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to take it personal. I'm going to bang the table. I'm going to look at the evidence and the facts. I'm going to give you, as you know, you see me in court. You were there every day. I'm going to give you everything I got. But I still don't have to live with the consequences. And so, I would just say, if your attorney is advising you a plea might be a good deal based on the evidence, that's one thing. But I would say I would never tell my client what to do.
Got it.
But I'm assuming what you probably mean is he's probably telling them it's a good idea.
Right. He suggested that he should do that he should do this. I'm going to take you back to something that I am struggling with, and you answered it, but I want to take you back here, though, man. DA Owens' integrity is in question, and there have been a lot of cases, and I use the word a lot loosely, but there have been several cases that have public scrutiny, right? Caused the public to say, maybe he should have done this. I mean, what is he doing? He's just letting people off. All of this. So here's my position.
I don't. Are these comments coming up?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to them because some of them are directly to you. So I'm gonna go back to them because I do want to give you an opportunity to respond to a couple of them that I saw. So I'm gonna come back to that. But let me ask you this. So for me, public trust is gone, and for me, I know of a case in particular that Owens was very shabby on, and the guy went to jail. He got out, and all of that. It was just shabby. It was horrible. This guy was done wrong. In my mind, and I need your help. In my mind, every case that DA Owens' hands have touched, they all should be in question. They're all tainted. And how can he move forward leading that office with this cloud over his head? So that's what I struggle with. I struggle with that level of trust.
And that's something for the voters to decide, right? So and that's the way I look at it, right? There's a mechanism, right, for Othor Cain, a citizen resident of Jackson, and people in Jackson to say, we've got to do something different because we believe you're tainted, you don't have the integrity. That's for the voters to decide. And for his own conscience, right? And for him to decide if he should do something different. But I understand what you're saying, which the only problem is that none of this was related to his job, right? Nothing in the indictment was related to anything he does as a district attorney. In fact, it seems so unrelated, one has to wonder, what are you even doing? like you're the DA of the largest county in Mississippi that's overwhelmed with responsibilities you have to do day to day in trying to solve crimes, prevent crimes, help victims, people who have been victims of crime, work with victims' families, all sorts of things all sorts of initiatives that you should be working on. Why are you so involved in a development project that has nothing to do with your role and responsibility for which the people elected you to do? And that is a bigger question. But again, that's something not for me, but for the voters to decide.
Well, he did say that the DA job was his part-time job, right?
I saw that in the indictment.
He did say the DA was his part-time job. He used that seat to get to this, right?
Yeah, those are things that the voters are going to have to do. I'm not saying you're wrong, Othor. I'm saying there's a mechanism for that to happen. It can't be. I don't think it can be some sort of legal removal unless he's been convicted.
Right. Gotcha. I put this comment up because I didn't want it to drop. It went away. I didn't want it to get away because I want to give you an opportunity to respond to that. Smith's attorney in the Hinds County case, a white criminal defense lawyer from Tupelo, got him off. Have at it, brother.
Well, no, let's just talk about the facts. One, the first case of Robert Smith ended in a mistrial. It was led by, I don't remember his name. We did work together. I wasn't on the first trial. It ended up in a hung jury. It was just Robert and him, and he was from Tupelo, Mississippi. Robert brought me on to be the lead attorney in the second trial, and I did work with that particular attorney. But I was the lead attorney. You were there every day, Othor. I did the opening statements. I did the cross-examination. I wrote the motions. I did the closing argument. I did the post interview press conference. So I don't even think there's even any question. So, I did work with an attorney from Tupelo who represented him the first time, and he second chaired to me after Robert brought me in from Atlanta in the trial where he was found not guilty on all counts.
I think the guy's name may have been Jim Wade.
Jim Wade, that's it. Yeah. Jim Wade.
And I'm not that smart. Somebody just texted it to me. So.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Jim since the first trial, so it's been a long time. So, but Jim, we did work together. So, but I was the lead attorney.
Very good. Look, I knew that, but there's just some things that I don't argue with when people have their opinion. Listen, Michael, I really do appreciate your insight, man. This has been very, 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 very helpful. I was there. With the case with you in Hines County. I was there with you at the case in Rankin County, and I saw firsthand what you did, which is why I couldn't think of anybody better to walk us through this tonight. So I appreciate your insight on this, man. I really do appreciate your insight. And the final question that I have for you, man, like all of the years that they could possibly get for these charges, if you were the defense attorney, I know you would be working like hell to knock some of this stuff down, right?
Absolutely. And you got to remember, in federal court is very different. It's guided by what's called sentencing guidelines. So when the public are looking at the charges and looking at the maximum and minimum punishments, that's not typically what the judges are looking at. They're looking at the sentencing guidelines, which are governed by your past criminal history, the amount of money involved, and the nature of the crime itself, crime or crimes itself, whether there becomes, for example, an acceptance of responsibility or things like that. So there are all sorts of things that mitigate the sentencing guidelines, which one of my favorite judges, also from Jackson, is the chairman of the Federal Sentencing Guidelines Commission, Judge Carlton Reeves. Mm-hmm. So if I remember correctly, he is actually the person who chairs the entire Sentencing Guidelines Commission for the country. So, to have somebody like him who's thoughtful and deliberate leading that commission, you're looking at, but just so the public knows, what judges are looking at are sentencing guidelines, which a good lawyer who practices regularly in federal court and knows them well knows how to set up an arrangement where you get the best possible punishment and you get all of your mitigating credit.
Got it. Man, you have been so helpful. I really do appreciate your making time for us, Attorney Sterling. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate it. I am certain that I'm going to need to call you again during this process, unless somebody hires you to come represent them.
Yeah, anytime, Othor, you were my first interview after I got the not guilty. We sat down at the new hotel that was built. That's right. Yeah. That's right. So yeah, anytime you want to talk to me and I've got some availability, I'm happy to talk to you.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
All right,
brother. You. We appreciate it. That's Attorney Michael Sterling out of Atlanta. Man, he has a lot of knowledge. What great insight he provided for us tonight. Really, really good. So listen, I want to pause here and run our commercials to thank our sponsors tonight for helping us bring this interview to you tonight. So we'll go to our Yemi Kings video, followed by Jim Kitchens.
Hi, I'm Attorney Yemi Kings. I've lived and served in Hines County Sub-District 2 my entire life. I'm the only candidate from this community, like the late Judge Larita Cooper Stokes, who set the standard for serving our people. I have sat in every seat of the county court. As a prosecutor, I work to keep our community safe by keeping violent and dangerous offenders off our streets. As a public defender, I work to balance the scales of justice. As a civil attorney and advocate for families, I bring unmatched experience and perspective to the bench. My deep connection to this community runs beyond the courtroom. I strive to follow in the footsteps of my great-grandfather, Reverend R.L. T. Smith, and cousin, former DA Robert Schuler Smith, as a true public servant. On November 5th, vote Yemi Kings for Hines County Court Judge, someone from the community that lives, works, and serves in the community.
Jennifer Branning puts extremist ideology above Mississippi families. She voted against equal pay for women and denied mothers and babies the health care they need 3 times, even after Governor Tate Reeves supported it. Now, Branning wants a seat on the Mississippi Supreme Court to push her dangerous extreme agenda. Justice Jim Kitchens has spent 16 years fighting for families, fairness, and real justice. Let's stand up for Mississippi women and families. Re-elect Justice Jim Kitchens for Supreme Court.
So I do want to thank Attorney Attorney Yemi Kings for his sponsorship tonight, and I do want to thank those folk, the New Southern Strategy, for sponsoring Jim Kitchens. So we thank you. We are absolutely appreciative. You know, what a great way to end this broadcast tonight with this video, and I am so excited to share this video. And I know you've seen it 1,000 times, but I am glad to be able to show you this video tonight. So the one, the only, Rita B, this video is up, and we've got our closing thoughts after this video. Here's Rita B.
What up, dog? It's your boy, J.O., a.k.a. Nino Light Brown. Some call me Ghost, some call me Tupac, the Frank Lucas of Jackson. I'm blood. What's up? What's up? What's up? I buy cars, cows, and drugs, and whatever. I buy turkey, jerky, skunks, and blunts, and whatever. I buy chickens, trucks, books, and ducks, cause it's whatever. I buy tuss and brooms, socks, and glocks, cause it's whatever. I got $1 million in my safe, but I don't keep it at my house because that ain't safe. I did a check, and I know they ain't the FBI, but I was wrong. Damn, must have been my Wi-Fi. You see me ballin', man, they got me on a private jet. I'm putting on for my city, about to cash the check. But hell no, fam, y'all ain't gonna see none of that. I gotta feed my cows while the grass is wet. I buy cars, cows, and drugs, and whatever. I buy turkey, jerky, skunks, and blunts, and whatever. I buy chickens, trucks, books, and ducks, cause it's whatever. I buy tuss and brooms, socks, and glocks, cause it's whatever. Hey, listen here. I don't give a where the money comes from. It can come from blood diamonds in Africa. I don't give a. I'm a whole DA. My job, as I understand it, with the little paperwork, is to get this deal done and get it done most effectively. We can take dope boy money. I don't give a but I need to clean it and spread it, and I can do it in here. That's why we have businesses to clean the money, right? I don't give a You give us cash, we deposit it and give it back that way. That's easy. Baby, show me that.
That is absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. So Rita sent that to me, and I was assuming she said it before she actually released it, I think. That's absolutely hilarious to me, right? They gave her all the material that she needed for that. Absolutely hysterical. Absolutely hysterical. All right, family, that's our time for tonight. Listen, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your support, right? I appreciate your trust. I appreciate your time and your investment. You know, please don't stop donating. We want to keep bringing you informative shows. I got to give a big shout out to Dr. J, my producer, as well. She is absolutely amazing. So she's pulling all of this stuff together, the graphics you see and all of this. Dr. J is making that happen. We're going to bring her on the show, so you'll get a chance to meet her very, very soon. But listen, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. My Cash App is $Othor Cain. Feel free to continue donating so that we can continue to bring you the best in terms of information. That's our broadcast for tonight from all of us here at the Othor Cain Show. Good night.
Hi, I'm attorney Yemi Kings. I've lived and served in Hinds County Subdistrict 2 my entire life. I'm the only candidate from this community, like the late Judge Loretta Cooper Stokes, who set the standard for serving our people. I have sat in every seat of the county court. As a prosecutor, I work to keep our community safe by keeping violent and dangerous offenders off our streets. As a public defender, I work to balance the scales of justice. As a civil attorney and advocate for families, I bring unmatched experience and perspective to the bench. My deep connection to this community runs beyond the courtroom. I strive to follow in the footsteps of my great-grandfather, Reverend R.L. T. Smith, and cousin, former DA Robert Schuler Smith, as a true public servant. On November 5th, vote Yemi Kings for Hinds County Court Judge, someone from the community that lives, works, and serves in the community.
Jennifer Branning puts extremist ideology above Mississippi families. She voted against equal pay for women and denied mothers and babies the health care they need 3 times, even after Governor Tate Reeves supported it. Now, Branning wants a seat on the Mississippi Supreme Court to push her dangerous extreme agenda. Justice Jim Kitchens has spent 16 years fighting for families, fairness, and real justice. Let's stand up for Mississippi women and families. Re-elect Justice Jim Kitchens for Supreme Court.